Wisdom financial channel for, we're going streaming everywhere. I feel like I moved from one platform to another. There's all kinds of technical problems. There's all kinds of things that you learn as a business owner, things that are like, you don't know until you figure it out. Luckily, the person I have on the channel, he actually told me about this new streaming service that we're trying. And he's an amazing person. He is I would say an OG in the space, right? He's been around the block. He's learned some things not to do, what to do. Whenever I came across infinite banking, I just, watched a movie about it and said, man, this is amazing. I want to do this. And I started my policies when I had my coffee shop, learned, all kinds of stuff, learned how to leverage it, use it. And then I got into the space and realized there's a lot of opinions in financial services world. And there's a lot of things that people say that are just not true. And Chris has a background like in the universal life space. So we might talk about that and, how sometimes that universal life is a copycat of some of the stuff that we do. And he's the founder of LIFE180. LIFE180, again, as you guys watch our channel and know what we do, we're about, being intentional with your living and with your life, with your money going through your financial system. He's also the author of Cash Flow Hacking. And today we're going to talk a lot about how to use the infinite banking concept, not just, how to set up a policy, but it's more of a mindset shift that he talks about on his channel. We talk about on our channel. And really, yeah, how's it worked out for him? So anyway, here is Chris.
Hello,
Hey, Chris.
hello. What's happening?
I think I got King EJ Cooper. He said, hi, let's connect. So
Perfect. Let's do it.
Awesome. So Chris,
Yeah.
I've been in the space for a little while. I did not know when I started our agency about 4 years ago that Dave Ramsey loves to hate on us, has a lot of
Yes, he does.
opinions.
Yep.
And I just got into it because I'm like, man, this system helped me overcome a flood. I was able to not close my business, but I was able to sell my business because I had access to capital. I've
Totally.
used it for real estate, and then I found that there's people who are educating other people out there, right? Like yourself, and I'm like, oh man, it's not just Pamela Yellen, it's not just Nelson Nash. There are people who are just as crazy as me, who realize the world is broken in a lot of ways, and the
Totally.
financial system is broken. So,
Totally.
take us back. How did you get into this? And I know
Yeah.
you have some experience in universal life that
Sure.
I
Yeah.
don't, but I've seen enough illustrations to say I don't want to put myself and my clients in those positions. But yeah, take us back. How did you get into this, and why are you so
Yeah. No,
passionate about Life
I love
180?
it. Thank you. Yeah. So first of all, I got to say, this is the first time I've ever been called an OG. So that's like a compliment and also like a scary thing telling me I'm getting old at this point in time. So, yeah. So craziness. So I got into the business in 2009. I got into the life insurance business, and honestly, I got in because I wanted to. I had a passion. I just got off a stint playing poker for a living. So I was a top 100 ranked online poker player, and I just wanted to. I love the economy. I just wanted to get into, I guess, having a regular job in the financial space. My father-in-law had been an investment advisor for Wells Fargo and Wachovia and AG Edwards and those companies. So traditional kind of wirehouse broker, right? So that's my background. Like that's my father-in-law, so you can imagine my Thanksgiving dinners are pretty fun to this day. But I went to join him, and his boss basically said, "Chris, listen, I'd love to hire you. I can't hire you. If I did, they'd fire me because you haven't had a job in 6 years. I think you're going to be great, but you got to go do something else. And I was like, well, what can I do? Like, how do I prove myself? He's like, go get a job at an insurance company. They'll hire anybody. So I said, okay. And so I went and I got a job with a company called National Life Group. And they are the #1 index universal life company in the country. You know, kind of rose through the ranks with National Life Group. Got Rookie of the Year, got different awards there, became a manager, won all sorts of management awards, and then kind of kept getting promoted. And before you knew it, like, I don't know, for me, it was one of those things, the higher I got, the more I realized like the product was not what I thought it was. And the longer you're in it, the more you realize it's not what you think. And that's what I kind of tell people. I get a lot of people that follow my channel that are all fired up about index universal life and the features that they kind of sell it on, the benefits that they sell it, the upside potential, the downside protection, the index participation, all these different things that sounds sexy and amazing. And it always illustrates phenomenally. And like, there's all these really good things to it. The challenge is, well, I guess I'll say this. I get it because I was that person, right? Like I drank the Kool-Aid. I sold millions of dollars of premium. And it wasn't until 3-4 years in that I came to the realization. I like to think I'm a pretty smart guy, right? Like, so like if it took me that long, I get it why it takes other people a long time to get it. You know what I mean? But that's what drives my passion for doing things the way that I do it on my channel, is to help people not have to go through what I went through, and have the hurt relationships, the hard conversations of people that you get into a product and then for some reason got to change everything. You know what I mean? And so it's a scary thing for a lot of people. Like when they realize, you know, hey, I've been swearing by this concept for 4 years and put everybody and my brother into it, and business partnerships and, you know, a lot of like professional relationships into this product that, you know, I told them it would do one thing, and now I just had this awakening and realization that it's not going to do anything that I told them it would do. In fact, it's this other product that's going to do what I told them it would do. And now how do I unwind this? And so it was a pretty challenging transition. So in 2014, I left National Life in October. I started LIFE180 because I decided I couldn't be aligned with IUL anymore. I had to start whole life insurance. I really wanted to focus more on education and really serving people. So that's kind of what has led me down the path to here. You know, I think it was 2016 that I started my YouTube channel. You know, and it's just been growing ever since.
Well, and I had a friend of mine, his name's Lester Hemmel.
Oh yeah.
Do you know Les? Have you heard of him
I've heard
before?
his name, yeah.
So he has a lot of opinions about, I mean, he's on the Banking Yourself side, which is kind of our IMO agency. And all the time he talks about the dangers of index universal life and all of that. And he, you know, I called him earlier today, and he's like, you know, I actually was friends, you know, because he was on the Wall Street side, but he was friends with the guy who created it. Okay. So it's a very unique position to be able to say, well, here's what it is, here's where it plays out, and to do the math, right? And the hard part is doing the math is challenging, and that's why I love your channel. Is, you know, thinking about doing the math, reverse architecting, putting the things in place that need to be risk, and the things in place that don't need to be risk.
Right.
And when you mix those two and say, well, it's safety, but it's not, like, that's the whole thing of, I don't know, 529 savings plan. I'm like, that's a risk plan, you know, not a savings plan. It's still, you know, and marketing is really interesting in that we've co-opted words in Wall Street and in this. And how have you seen, as you've been working in this, the I don't know if I want to say this, but like the bastardization of words?
Yeah.
that you're like combating, and people still like I heard you saying in a video the other day that you'll get haters. I was like, yeah, you'll get haters that don't know or haven't done the math.
You
How do
know,
you deal with that, and how do you keep positive?
um, so I follow this guy. His name is Russell Brunson. He owns a
Mhm.
company called ClickFunnels. I own a marketing agency as well, and I do all sorts of. I'm a wackadoo entrepreneur. So like I don't just do this financial stuff. I just happen to be passionate about this financial stuff because of how I know it's impacted my life. And so for years I was creating content in the financial space without really anything to gain from it. Ultimately,
Yeah,
I loved it. It was what we were doing on ourselves. And so in following Russell, the one thing I learned from him in marketing is polarization is key. And you're never going to impact anybody unless you're willing to be polarizing, like period. Because the worst kind of conversation or sales pitch or whatever, and I say this from like sales and marketing and whatever, but really
yeah,
if you think about it, it's about service. That's really
yep,
what it is. Like what we're doing, whatever it is, we sell life insurance, right? Like we believe in infinite banking and the power that life insurance can add to everybody's life. And so from that perspective, sometimes you got to lead people down a path of marketing and sales to get them to kind of have
yeah,
that journey of self-discovery that we had at some point in time, right? And so that's what I tell agents, like your job is not to go sell anybody anything. Your job is to be a guide to allow people
yeah,
the benefit of having the same experience of self-discovery and like awakening to this thing that gets you so excited, And so when I think about like how do I deal with the haters, I guess I don't think about it because I look at it as like I'm just trying to serve people. And I know in doing that, there's going to be I'm a pretty opinionated, polarizing guy. I've got a unique life experience in the industry, and a unique combination of understanding of whole life insurance, infinite banking, index universal life, marketing, video production, like all these weird things that kind of amalgamate together. And I just know that the hate is going to happen.
yeah,
And the coolest part for me, Brandon, is the other day I did a video and somebody came at me hard. Like they were attacking me. Called me a scumbag, called me this,
yeah,
just really just over the top, And there were 3 people immediately that jumped in the comments before I even had a chance that came to my defense that started watching the channel as haters, that started watching the channel as huge IUL advocates, and then they flipped. And 2 out
wow,
of the 3 now only sell whole life. And 1 out of the 3 was like, listen, I still sell IUL, but what you're saying, if you're saying this, you obviously haven't been here long enough to get to know Chris and what this channel is all about. So it was
yeah.
like, that's the stuff that like fires me up. You know what I mean? Because the ripple effect of that impact is huge.
Right. And I think that sometimes as I was in a Zoom meeting with some people, and the Wall Street people, or, one guy was like, literally, I'm trying to share my story and how it
Yeah.
impacted me, and like literally getting attacked on this
Yeah.
this call. And I was like, I'm just sharing my experience and how it worked for me. Go with
Mhm.
whatever you do. But
Totally.
some people in the comments and in general, they're like, this is like red versus blue. And I'm like, I'm just sharing my story.
Yeah.
How has this impacted me, and how has this helped me to ultimately sell the business, overcome
Totally.
certain things, buy real estate? And I'm not saying don't get into Wall Street. I'm saying just be smart. And somebody asked, and let's see, I'm going to show some of this. So one
Yeah.
person said, follow up with you guys. How can I reach both of you? Hey, for me, go to wealthwisdomfp.com and you can find me, and you better find everything there. www.wealthwisdomfp.com. And Chris, how do they find you?
So I actually got this new system that I just built. It's I got a text short code that can make it really easy for everybody. If you want to get a hold of me, just text IBC for Infinite Banking Concept. Text IBC to 26786.
Awesome.
IBC to 26786, and that'll get you some information. It'll get you a calendar link, and you can set up a call with me, and it's pretty easy. And so love technology. So yeah, and I
26786.
26786 IBC to 26786. Fun stuff.
Awesome. And speaking of IBC,
Yes.
and this is again what I do and what he does. Debbie, Debbie Webby
Debbie
says,
Webby.
"What is infinite banking?" This is what we're talking about. What is infinite banking? Let's define that.
Yeah.
And then we'll say how we've used it. So
Yeah.
you go ahead and tell people.
Yeah. So I would just say this is like a lot of times people misunderstand what infinite banking is. It gets sold as like a whole life policy, properly designed, whatever. Because of that, I think a lot of people misunderstand and they think of it as a product, but really infinite banking is just a system. It's a philosophy more than anything on leveraging your money and setting up your financial foundation in a way that allows you to kind of grow through life, have more control of your money. And I tell it like this: infinite banking is simply a philosophy that is like a filter that allows you to kind of filter all of your financial decisions through. And if you follow it, it will put you in a position where your life gets better and better and better on a guaranteed basis for the rest of your life. That's it. So, like I think, and what fires me up about it, and the reason I do it is because, when I got into the business, going back to the beginning, and I said I joined the financial industry wanting to join my father-in-law as a wirehouse, advisor.
Right.
After being in the insurance space for about 6 months, I was like, holy crap, I could never go do that. Like the biggest thing I can tell you is that the thing because don't forget, 2009 was what? Right after 2008, the recession and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I watched my father-in-law go through that. And the biggest thing that drove me when I joined the industry and has a huge impact on me to this day is I never wanted to have to tell any of my clients that I was sorry for losing their money.
Yeah.
I never that was a big thing. Is like, I'm a big risk taker personally. I take risks in a lot of areas and a lot of businesses. It drives my wife absolutely crazy. But you shouldn't take your risk inside of your financial foundation. You want to build your financial foundation to allow you to go take risks to get the results in the life that you want to live. Right. And so that's what, to me, infinite banking is just a philosophy. And, I could just rip on this for about an hour, like just this question alone, like I would say this, and this is why I do what I do. This is why I'm so passionate about it, is I'm a big believer that, we live in a broken world, and that we, because of that, the financial system is broken. 95% of people are reaching retirement or not on pace to be able to retire and maintain their standard of living. We have the most prosperous country on the history of the face of the earth. And only 5 out of 100 people are able to live with dignity in retirement, and be comfortable. And
the stats are going negative instead of positive in that regard.
It's an atrocity. And to me, how can that be? It's because the system is not set up for you to win. And that, I'm not saying that from some conspiracy theorist, whatever perspective. I'm just saying, look at the stats, it's not my opinion. It's just math, and it's just history, and it's actual results. And so my mindset is if you want to be successful, you got to do what other people are doing that are actually being successful. And, if we look at this, the broken world is leading to a broken financial system and all this stuff. I think the big challenge that I see is that people and people's money is not in alignment with their values and beliefs. Right. And from that perspective, think about it this way: the human brain, and there's a great book everybody should read. It's called The Ant and the Elephant by Vincent Pacenti. And it's this cool little, it's thin, it's like 80 pages. It's a super easy read, but it's this little fable of an ant and an elephant. And the whole concept of it is the human brain is only going to allow you to put 100% of effort into something you believe with 100% certainty you'll be successful in, period. Right? So think about that. The ant and the elephant is the idea of saying our subconscious, which is, what we truly believe in our core values, our subconscious is only going to allow us to put 100% of effort into something we believe in our subconscious will be successful with. So if your money is out of alignment with your core values, you're never going to win. That's a game. That's a fight you can't win. So the first problem has nothing to do with you getting a better return in the market, going and doing all these different things. The first thing you need to do is make sure whatever you're doing is in alignment with your values and beliefs, and that you can actually execute it in a way and be excited about doing it. be excited about growing into the person that you need to become to live that life that you want to live, to get to where you want to be. And if you don't do that, like you can't do that, I should say, by outsourcing your financial strategy and financial plan to some Wall Street broker. Like you just like, no offense to them, but like, you know, that's not how it works if you want to live the life that you want to live.
Well, and that's something as I was going through this, and I watched the Banking with Life documentary back in the day, and James Netherly was the creator of that movie, and I was like, oh, something needs to change. I have these policies. I have this coffee shop. My biggest risk is me. My biggest investment is me and the business. How do I best make sure if something happens to me, life insurance actually is to protect widows and orphans. If something happens to me, I want to make sure my wife is protected, life insurance in general. But then they're saying to divest out of my business and put it into somebody else's business to grow. And I'm like, well, no, I need to have access to capital to be able to grow the business. Right. And some of it was used, maybe it was access to somewhat take a vacation so I can grow better, but it was an investment in me, right? And it might be a liability to someone else. Used it for a down payment on a house. And what I'm learning, and we wrote this little thing, I'll show you this, 5 simple steps to secure your future outside of a W-2.
Oh, cool.
I believe that more and more people are going into this world, right? More and more people are going into that every day. They are side hustlers, independent contractors, and then they're told to divest out of themselves and put it to something else, right? Tesla stock or whatever. I'm like, well, no, you got to build your foundation first. And this is a great place to build the foundation, savings. So that way you can invest in things you know, right? So as you've grown, and totally you guys can get this, go to wealthwisdomfp.com/report, I think it is, that you can find that, right? www.wealthwisdomfp.com/report. And you can download that special report. We've thought about it from a business owner. I'm a business owner, and I don't want to be a salesperson. I want to make sure mitigating risk, right? I want to educate. That's why I love what you do, Chris, and education first, and why I think we connect. But in the end, I still want to pay my bills, and I want to make sure that, you know, as my clients are working, they learn how to use it, the cash value in the policy, to grow more wealth, grow a bigger foundation. So as you've been using your policies, what are some examples of how you've used infinite banking to grow outside of Tesla stock? Or, you know, everybody says, you know, we need to put in EFTs and this and that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I wrote my book, Cash Flow Hacking, simply because, and I've got Cash Flow Hacking 2.0 that I'm working on right now that I'm pushing for the end of the year. We'll see how that works. But I'm a big believer, like, we need to be investing for cash flow, not this buy and hold accumulation mindset, because I think that's one of the big problems. You know, I just got done, I'm putting together in my research for my book, I just got done kind of going through in this research, looking at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right? So when we look at the Dow Jones, I broke it down into 3 different segments, right? And you look at the those 3 different segments. One segment was 1929 to 1979. One segment was 1980 to 1999, and then the other segment is 2000 to present. And when you look at the results from 29 to 79, and then 2000 to present, the results are kind of abysmal. You know, as far as like with the buy and hold methodology, the only window that really works, that the buy and hold strategy worked, and it worked fabulously, was 1980 to 1999. Okay. And when we look at, like, I'm a big why guy. Like, I ask why, like I you know, I don't take anything at face value. I always dig deep, and I'm like, all right, why is that the case? Why is that the case? And guy Brendan Burchard taught me, like, ask why 7 times in any conversation. You want to get to the heart of it. keep asking why, and it'll annoy the crap out of the people you're talking to. But if you do it, like you'll become that. And by the way, he learned that from Larry King, and Larry King equates that whole 7 questions of why, 7 layers of why, and you phrase them differently in different questions. But Larry says that's why he became like the best interviewer in the world, is because that's basically what he did. And so, for me, I look at like, why are we doing things in the financial space the way that we're doing them? Why does everybody believe IRAs, 401ks, Roth IRAs, and all that stuff are the traditional, quote unquote, financial vehicles to save for retirement? Why is everybody failing right now? Like, why is all this happening? And here's what I come up with. All of this stuff, if you understand it, 401ks were created in 1980. Roth IRAs, 1998. Right? Like, if you look at all of these traditional, quote unquote, vehicles that we're utilizing, they were all created during this one window of time that was kind of like a unicorn event, right? And it's not duplicatable. And there was a lot of variables that went into it. It's not that it's not duplicatable, but it's environmental, right? Like the federal funds rate went to 20%. We had a decreasing interest rate environment, all these different things, the creation of 401ks and qualified accounts. Every investor got thrusted, every Main Street employee got thrusted into the stock market for the first time. So asset prices went up, all while interest rates are coming down. It's like this perfect storm for growth, right? And like, listen, I got to tell you, if we ever get to the place where that's a possibility again, we're going to have to go through a lot of pain before we get there. Like, that's just what I know. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity in the process. And so, man, now I don't even remember where this question started. This is my problem. I start going down these tangents, but like, this is why I think it's so important to understand when we're looking at, what we're doing with our money, we need to make sure that we understand why we're doing it. And we need to understand that, whatever you're doing, there's no right or wrong answer. That's the thing that I'm really hardcore about, is that there's no right or wrong answer. There's right for me and there's wrong for me, and there's right for you and there's wrong for you. It depends on who you are. It depends on what you want your life to look like. Depends on how driven. One of the greatest benefits of infinite banking is control of money, right? Like control. You can't calculate the return on control, or the opportunity cost on lack of control, right? That's different for different people. Oh yeah, I remember where we're going with this question. And so like, it comes full circle. So like, for me, having that control is an extremely valuable thing, right? And so how have I utilized infinite banking? Well, I mean, we do real estate. We're developing a place right now in the Dominican, right? You can't get traditional financing down in the Dominican. And it's funny, the more opportunity you have, the more access to capital you have in this kind of situation, the more opportunity kind of tracks you down, right? And if you are, this is where I say, the reason you are where you are in life is because of who you are in life. That's with your marriage, that's as a parent, that's with your money, that's with whatever it is. And that's not a judgment, that's just reality, right? And so, if you want to grow in your faith, can you have your pastor read the Bible for you? No, you got to go read the Bible yourself. If you want to grow as a husband, can you try to get your best friend to be a better husband for you? No, you got to put the work in and connect.
Oh, wait, are you saying there's no shortcuts for that stuff?
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Oh, well, man.
And so this is what I'm writing in my new book. I'm calling it the 4 F's of life, faith, family, fitness, which is health. I just wanted 4 F's, and finances. You can't outsource your faith. You can't outsource your family and your relationships with them. You can't outsource your health. And so why is it that everybody thinks when finances have the greatest impact on these other areas, your ability to afford the ability to eat clean and be intentional and go to have a good gym membership that you're excited to go to, every month, and, be able to go on date nights and enjoy your family and tithe and give to your church and like give back to the community and just like show up differently in life. More health issues are caused by stress. Financial stress is the greatest stress of all. More divorces are caused by financial stress than anything else. And so like, people got it backwards. I would argue, like, outside of your faith, finances should be at the top. I mean, with certain parameters in place, but at least if not that, finances directly impacting else. So if you get your money right, and it sounds like a bold thing, but the more I get into this, if you get your money right, and if we can help people get their money right, this is what fires me up, because I love the money thing, but I love the marriage talk way more. Like, I've shared my story on my channel a lot. My wife and I have gone through a lot of stuff. I'm much more of an advocate for husbands being good husbands than I am people being good with their money. But like, I don't think you can be a good husband without being good with your money, quite frankly.
And I think that's why you and I can get along so well. And just thinking about this is it is interconnected, and it is all of this is so interconnected that people aren't realizing. I was at a thing with our church, camp thing experience, and a lot of people were having just issues, right? Different family issues and things like that. And I asked, and one of the things I was thinking about is, are you showing up to different things that you have priority, whether it's, the weekly service, right?
Yeah.
The small group, regular date night, time with your family. Are you showing up? Right. And if you don't make it a discipline, and this is not infinite banking, well, maybe it is, but if you make a regular discipline, but people don't like discipline, but you have to be disciplined in saying, okay, these are priorities. And I told somebody one time, it was at the camp, I said, here's the way I think about it. It's the rock analogy. I think I get annoyed by the rock analogy because I'm like, I feel like I say it all the time. I'm like, you're putting in sand first and not the big rocks. You're putting in water first. And if you've never heard of this, basically what people do is they just throw stuff in. What I like about infinite banking and any of this is a big rock. I'm putting in a big rock that goes along with date night, right? The other pieces. And this is something, and I'm speaking from the heart. When I was in the second year of our business, it was one of the hardest times in our life. Yeah. And I tell every business owner 3 things that you need to know. You need to know that you're called to something, because it's going to be hard. It's going to suck. Yep. Have a team around you that care about you, not just your product, right? Or what you can do for them. And know your numbers. What I love about infinite banking is it helps you know your numbers. Now, here's the thing. Numbers, and marketing, numbers in finance and numbers in marketing are still knowing your numbers. So we've created a thing we call and now I'll hush after this, but I've thought about this, is the chaos of the world is confusing, haphazard, anxious, overwhelming, and stressful. That's chaos. That is where we're at right now, in chaos, confusing, haphazard, anxious, overwhelming, stressful. Tell me we're not there, right? Everybody, like, if you hit the like button if you think we're in chaos, right?
Amen to that.
But we need to go back, and this is where my wife is really smart about this. And she's like, well, we need to go back and think about our why, asking the why. Why are we doing this? True. And kind of going back to my faith again. And I did a video with my pastor recently, and I'm kind of going more into that a little bit. But we need to set our sights. As I do financial planning for people, the goals people have are, I want to go to Disney World. I'm like, that's crazy. Just that, like, really, is that it? But set your sight. Reverse architect our life. What kind of husband do I want to be? What kind of all of those things. Infinite banking is great because I can set my sights and use that system to make the better plans, right? Then it's and we call it the still method. So it's set your sights, track your in and out, inspect your progress, look for 1% adjustments. I don't know about you, but you probably haven't arrived all the way. Like, even in your YouTube channel, it took 1% adjustments, getting better. Like, I switched to Restream or whatever we're on.
I make adjustments
1% adjustments, right?
Every single day.
And then
still
live deliberately. What I love about infinite banking is a deliberate decision. I'm predefining what I want to do to be able to go back and set my sights, and I'm doing those things to move forward. So that's the still method, which I think comes from, faith. And I'm like, well, the reason people are so crazy is they haven't really thought about what kind of husband do I want to be? What kind of father do I want to be? And I've thought a lot about, okay, I have a 4-year-old. What kind of grandparent do I want to be? Like, and how do I
Yeah,
reverse architect it?
totally.
Do I want him to like me? Um, money is helpful in those. So have you seen, I mean, I'm sure you do the still method. You just didn't know that
I
it was
call
the
it
same thing,
PDCA, plan, do, check, adjust. Like just
right?
make a
Same
plan,
thing.
go do it, check the results, adjust when necessary. And I do that every day. Like I try to do it every day, at least every week. And I've surrounded
Yeah.
myself with a team of people that I trust, that I've given authority to call me out, because I'm human. I make a lot of
Right.
mistakes. Just ask my wife. And like, there's one perfect person that ever walked this earth, and he died 2,000 years ago. And like that's not me, that's not you, that's not anybody. And so we're all going to make mistakes, and we're all like got our own little shortcomings. And so
Right.
like all we can do is strive. All we can do is like feel like we're called. Like you said it, you got to feel like you're called to something. And I feel super blessed and super fortunate that I genuinely feel called to what I'm doing in a way that like is irrational. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it makes no sense, And so from that perspective, like, I would agree with you. And it goes back to what I was saying. I mean, you and I, we're saying the same thing. We just kind of say it in different ways. And I think,
Yeah.
I might be a little bit more aggressively bold about my positioning and stance, right? Like, cause I'm very much like, I'm a former athlete. So I'm used to being the guy that like my coaches would just beat the crap out of me. And that's like what I wanted. I'm that guy, like
Yeah.
my mindset, like I got a business partner. He's a great, great guy. And he's like, Chris, you don't take accolades very well. And I'm like, I don't need like a pat on the back. That's not my personality. Like, I just
Yeah.
want to win. I want to help people. I want to serve. Like taking the time for accolades and stuff just is wasted time. I could go do other stuff. You know what I mean? And so like, um, and that so I move with a certain level of intensity, I guess sometimes that make people uncomfortable. But my heart and everything is always in the right place. So sometimes I guess that can be misinterpreted if you don't know who I am.
Yeah.
But what I will say is this is, and you said it, and I'll kind of say it in a different way, is like, and rehash what I said a little bit before, a little bit into this, is we all have a life that we want to live. And to your point, like if your aspirations are going to Disneyland or Disney World or whatever, that's a self-serving why.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
our whys, the greatest way to be unhappy is to seek happiness in and of itself, right? Like our whys have to be about contribution, have to be about helping other people. I don't think we can be truly fulfilled unless we're doing that, and
Right.
I truly believe that, so I would say if you're living a small life, it's because you have small goals, small dreams, like, and you're not pushing yourself to live into them. Your why is not big enough. And
Yeah.
I would really encourage everybody to think about that. And so if we are where we are because of who we are, that's me, that's everybody in the world. And that's the president. That's, everybody in this world. That is who we are, is we are where we are because of who we are. And that's fine. It just means we're all on a journey. We're all trying to grow. We should all be intentional about how we live life. That's why I called Life 180, Life 180, live intentionally for excellence. Live your life intentionally. Show up every day. You don't have to be perfect. You just got to try. You just got to be intentional about what you're trying to achieve and go out and try to do it. And if you do that, this is why now we back ourselves into like, why do I love infinite banking? It's the only financial strategy in the world,
Yep.
philosophy in the world, that's going to force you to become more to achieve what you want. But the reality is you can have all these dreams and goals and aspirations, and if you think you're going to get there by giving your money to somebody else and like taking a back seat and like blaming them when the market goes down and like all this stuff, like,
Yep.
I got news for you. That's not how the world works. Like, like you got to become more if you want to get to those new levels.
Well, yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people are like they want the shortcuts, and
Yeah.
there's so much more in living a life to the fullest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about the founder of Infinite Banking, Nelson Nash. He
Yeah.
has a lot of opinions about on I think page 38 of the book about
Mm-hmm.
IUL and certain things. But he was very open about his faith. right? And I think we are on the channel. You can definitely see it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Still Method and our former business was Overflow Coffee Bar, right? Um, right, those things. But it was about, and going into finance, right? My mentor has a master's of divinity. We have a background, and knowing how even the financial system has created more slavery. Or there's a book, and I recommend every person to read this. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. What we have done is replace maybe our walk with God or spiritual things with things, acquiring more, right? And then we have to maintain that more houses, more stuff, and that's by design, because we became consumers, not producers, right? And that was in
Yeah.
the 80s, 90s, which grew our market, right? And people are like, this isn't healthy. I don't. And so then there's been this movement of declutter, saying, I don't need this. I want to have freedom, financial freedom in other ways. But then the FIRE movement still says, well, let's still put in to the market because that is awesome. And we make money by other people buying, but we're not going to buy, which I find interesting. Right. And so thinking about a holistic world that's helpful, and protection. That's why I love the infinite banking concept in general. Is it
Totally.
kind of aligns with my faith?
Love it.
I mean, literally, the product protects widows and orphans. Like that's what insurance is.
Yeah.
You cannot be any more of a spiritual product, at least when it comes to finance. Right.
Sorry,
And so
I was looking for a book on my bookshelf. There's a great book. Let me see if I can find it real quick here. It's called, yep, here it is. So there's this great book. If you haven't read it, it's called Love and Money. And it's Rodney Cox, who's a pastor, and Don Blanton, who is the founder of Circle of Wealth, the money tracks. I don't know if you've ever done it with them. So they wrote this book together. It's a pretty good sized book, but it's all about managing money and principles of money and marriage and balancing it all together, and like just biblical financial principles, and like kind of how a lot of that has been skewed and positioned in a way that's a bit misleading, by people like Dave Ramsey, so to speak, and not to call him out, but I can't help myself. But so they're like, it's a great book. I don't even know where you would get that at this point in time, but like at one point, I go ahead.
I found like Dave Ramsey, literally, he said a video a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half, and he's like saying how horrible infinite banking is, and he's the top rated video. I was like, that's clickbait. That's really what he's doing.
But he's not. Like, he goes into it and he believes it, and he just insults people. Like, it's
he did. And I went and I did a counter video, which you can find, but I was like, this really helped me, and this is why I'm doing this, is because I want to help people be set free, not in bondage, right? I want, anyway, it was
so here, let's talk about that for a second. This is why, like, my battle, and I've battled with Dave Ramsey. I've got one video about Dave Ramsey that's got over 100,000 views, and like, we go back and forth, and it is what it is. But one of the things that I've been grateful for in that experience with him is really realizing that there's no one right way, right? Like, anybody that's going to tell you that everything has to be a certain way, and if you don't do it this way, you're stupid, you're an idiot. I mean, that's literally what he says to people. You're an idiot. And I watched this one video with him screaming and berating somebody, calling them an idiot. And I'm like, wow, this guy's like a biblical dude. Like, I like, such a disconnect for me. And like, how people don't see that is mind numbing to me. But anybody that believes, and this is where I'm grateful, is like, there's just one way to do anything, like, to me, is not to be trusted. Like, even me, like, don't just take infinite banking as like the only way. My call to action for anybody is to, like, for you to be intentional about who are you, what are your values, what are your beliefs,
Yeah.
Is your money in alignment with who you are, how you show up in the world, what you want your life to look like? Is your money being leveraged as a tool to help you show up in this world to do your calling? And if the answer
Right.
is no, think about it. And if you're totally happy after you go through that process, God bless you, keep going, double down. Like, but like, yeah, it's, you have to align your money with your values and your beliefs. That is the first thing. If you want to show up and live a better life, I didn't say a richer life. I didn't say more money. I didn't like any, but a better life, a more fulfilled life, because that's where it has to start. Like,
Yeah.
that's the foundation of everything.
Well, and again, our YouTube and everything is wealth, wisdom, financial. The reason we
Yeah.
did wealth is not always money. We did a video on this. It's there's wealth in relationship, wealth in all kinds of other areas of life. I could make $1 billion and not have a relationship to my kid,
Well,
right?
totally.
That is not, and there's a lot of people in Africa who
Well,
maybe they have a wealth of community, right?
well, not think about what's the most valuable resource we all have?
Time,
Time,
right? Is it?
right?
Yeah.
I know plenty of rich people that have estranged relationships, broken marriages, horrible relationships with their kids. They make a lot of money, but they're owned by their job. They're a slave to their
Yep.
money, which is the consumerism mindset, right? Like a lot of that has been
Yep.
caused by that. And so like you can be rich, but you're not wealthy. You cannot be wealthy without having the time freedom to show up in life how you want to show up. But that forces you to then once again look at it and be like, is my money in alignment with my values and beliefs?
Exactly. And I think again, as we were pastors, right? We were back in that doing the financial world. I can see what people value and believe just by doing an analysis. And a lot of times, let's be honest here, the reason a lot of people, I think we have been being honest, by the way, but
Yeah.
the reason that a lot of people don't want to deal with the money conversation is because they say something, maybe politically, whatever, all that
Yeah.
stuff. They say stuff, but
Yeah.
their actions don't reflect that. And when you do an analysis, when you do any of that with your money, that and budgeting, why people don't budget sometimes is because they're really saying my actions are reflective of my beliefs, right? And I think that that's the challenge where we need to really think through
Yeah.
uh, through that, right?
I love it.
But again, doing that is hard work. It does take effort. So, guys, I put this little new comments. We'll display here. Put your comments in here. I don't want it to just be. Chris and I could talk all day long. I think but
I could. I got like we could just keep going. I could talk about this. Actually, you just spoke about something that I want to touch on real quick if you're good with it.
Oh, for sure. Let's go for it.
So you talked about like people having a hard time with budgeting. So I'm going to be vulnerable and honest, like really open up with this about my story. I hated budgeting. Like one of the challenges of being a professional poker player for 6-7 years was I built a really unhealthy relationship with money, because when you live in that world, like it's just like thousands of dollars in my pocket all the time. You just drop money. You just like, you don't think about anything. Everything's just like, you spend and spend and spend. And like, I got out of that experience making more money in my 20s than most people make in a life. And I had nothing to show for it. Right. And so I didn't want to budget. I didn't want to keep track of anything. I didn't like, it was just like, oh, that's like demeaning. It's below me. It's this, it's that. And like the ego, like there was a lot of really unhealthy thoughts that were going on. And the thing that I had to do for myself, because I'm an entrepreneur, right? Like I love to build businesses. I like to do it. And if you think about any business owner, every business owner has to budget. You have to know your revenue. You have to know your expenses. You have to know the inflows and outflows. But here's the difference. When we think about budgeting, what do? We think about like scarcity, right? Shrinking, spending less, being less than, right? Like, so I've shifted my personal life and I said, I'm going to run my personal life like I'm going to run my businesses. And every business I run, I have a monthly P&L statement. I look at my inflows, I look at my outflows, and I try to figure out, how am I going to grow my business? Now I have to have my P&L, right? And I have to look at that. What is that? That's a budget, right? But the difference is, the entrepreneur looks at P&L from a standpoint of like, how am I growing? When people look at a budget, they're thinking about, how do I shrink and how do I spend? Like, it's a scarcity mindset versus a growth mindset. And so what I had to do in my personal life is come at it from like, it's okay to measure things and to like rein in certain spending, as long as I'm doing it with the mindset of like a P&L where I'm trying to grow my life and grow my results and get to a certain place, right? And so my encouragement to anybody that struggles with a budget is to do what I did and stop thinking about it like a budget. Start thinking about it like you're running your personal life like a business, and have a monthly P&L the same way that a business owner would.
Yeah, that's why. Have you heard of this book, Profit First? I'm Profit First certified.
It's good.
The reason I'm a Profit First certified person, and why I love working with business owners, is it really helped me from a poverty mindset. When I had the coffee shop, I was not paying myself, right? And I was last to get paid. That's the way typical budgeting and a business works. You know, and profit is last. What Mike McCallowitz says is, put profit first, owners pay, then you lead OpEx at a certain percentage, right? What's fun about this is, I can geek out about this all the time, right? Because understanding where I came from when I had this shop, my business name was Overflow. I can't overflow if I don't take care of myself. Right. It literally almost happened where we almost died because of, not taking care of myself physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Right. And a business will take everything from you if you let it. Right. It's a cash eating monster. So how do we position ourselves where we're understanding the numbers, not spending on things we shouldn't. Right. And on top of that, making sure that we are taking care of the number one asset, us, right? And if we really want dividends and stock, well, let's make sure our business is profitable and we're able to do that. And that, I think that's what people forget when it comes to business. The fun thing, and again, I'll be quiet a little bit, but is really thinking about, okay, the 5 bank accounts, one of them for me just happens to be a life insurance policy, because it's a bank, right? So if we have the different banks, right, and this goes into Dave Ramsey, he had a great video against Profit First, which is hilarious because
did he really?
Yeah, he says
I gotta look that up. I'm writing that down.
And we're like, hello. They actually promote you a lot in the book. And it's the same system except electronic, the envelope system, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I found it hilarious, but whatever.
Nobody could ever improve on anything Dave Ramsey did, though.
Right. Yeah. So that's something I think is, budgeting is important, understanding or cash flow management is more what I think. How do you manage cash flow like a millionaire? I bet you Jeff Bezos understands where his cash is going. He probably doesn't budget, but I bet he knows a bit more. He has a team of 100 people just doing that for him.
Yeah. Probably. I mean, listen, you're going to get to a certain place. You're going to be able to afford to have people do it for you, I mean, I'm lucky we're at the point now where I have a bookkeeper, I have, a couple of VAs and like people that help me with stuff, but like, it's the notion that we got to be able to be entrusted with a small amount so we can grow, right? Like we have to, once again, it's like, are you who you need to be to get to where you want to be? And most of the time, like Like that simple idea of like, are you willing to manage and be intentional? I got news for you. Anything measured improves. All a
Yeah.
budget is, if you look at it like a P&L statement, you're just measuring. It's not like some negative thing, but anything measured improves. How are you going to tell me you're living completely intentionally about life if you're not keeping track of your money, if that's one of the four most important things in your life?
Well, and paying yourself, right? So
Yeah.
I've seen everybody that says, "Well, hey, I'm gonna sell my business." I'm like, "How much
Yeah.
are you paying yourself?" "Oh, well, that's different." I'm like, if you're gonna sell the business, that's gonna be important to know because no one's gonna buy it if you're
Mm-hmm.
not, seeing that, and just that giving your money jobs, doing all that fun stuff, and um, also thinking about like when I had my last year we were renting, right? We had a co-working space, we're growing,
Yep.
and we knew the expense was, right? So we moved from uh, renting to buying
Yep.
a property. Guess how I used it? Guess how I did it? I used a life insurance policy,
Yep.
right, to do that,
Totally.
personally owned.
Totally.
Then my business pays me rent,
Yep.
tax incentives, right? There's all
Beautiful.
kinds of things because I understood where it was, and I'm trying to recapture that money because I was basically trying to grow my business,
Yep.
but paying somebody else for space. Right?
Yep.
It's
Yep.
thinking holistically, guys. We want to think all areas, not just say, "Well, I know how to make money," but do you know how to keep money? This is a make and keep thing.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. I
is for
100%,
real
man.
estate. Have you ever used your policy? I don't know, for marketing to
Oh,
grow. If you
yeah. Yeah. I mean, marketing, businesses, it's helped me avoid bankruptcy one time back in like
right,
2014 when I first launched Life 180, and I got in a lawsuit with National Life Group, and it was an ugly thing, and it was just like, and it took a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of distraction,
yeah,
and so it almost buried me, honestly, which is what they were after. But like, yeah, it's listen, it's opportunity, tracks you down if you're ready, and it's amazing when you start to implement that. One of the things Don Blanton always says, and Don Blanton's a guy, Circle of Wealth, who wrote this book, is life insurance is the only financial product in the world that will make sure what you want to happen will happen when you want it to happen, whether you're here to see it or not. Period.
right.
That's it.
Amazing.
Really think about that. Like on a deep level, like that is huge when you really dissect what that means. And so, like for me, I go, all right, why do I want to do anything? I do everything I do for me, not for me, but for my family and for my kids and for my legacy. And
Yeah,
like, yeah, we want to live a good life and like whatever. But honestly, like I have enough in life right now. I could like shut it down and be good. Like we're building places
yeah,
in the Dominican. I could just move there and we'll be, if it were just about me and my wife and living a life, like we'd just go off grid right now. And believe me, that is my personality. I would just be in the jungle, away from everything, disconnect and be gone. That's why I have my Jeep and we go off-roading and overlanding and stuff, because I need to disconnect from the world because I'm so plugged in all the time, right? And so,
yeah. Wife, she would do the same thing.
what's that?
My wife is the same way. She's like, yeah,
Oh,
that's my favorite thing. If I get you know, money,
totally.
go somewhere and never see anybody again for a while.
Yep,
Uh,
exactly.
you know,
So, so I would just say, like, once again, what do you want? Reverse engineer it, figure it out. And, um, it's really powerful when you just start to be really intentional. Like this crypto biker person is, they're listening to the Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, right? Like it's another great book. Success Leaves Clues. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got from a mentor is, Chris, if you want to be successful, find the people that have the life that you want to live and emulate what they do until you get there. Now, that is the most simple advice when you really think about it, but it's like advice that nobody follows. Very few people follow that advice, right? Like it's, you know, you got to be willing to just do it, you know, to just be
But
willing to trust.
and I think that's why all of the stats are blinking red in a lot of ways, from mental
Yeah.
health and emotional and
Yeah.
spiritual, is because, you know, we think we're going to get shortcuts, and we've been told, if you buy this TV, this will make you happy.
Yeah.
If we do this, that'll do that. And we haven't really, you know, thought through it or
Mm.
want to, right? So one of my goals, I have a 4-year-old, so I've been thinking a lot about it. I'm like, I want to have my son visit 6 of the 7 continents before he's 18. I've
That's
never been
awesome.
able to do that myself, but the reason is because then guess what? I have to go with him.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. So I have to do it, and it's time constrained. You know, before he's
Mm-hmm.
18. So that means I gotta put plans in place,
Every
put it
couple of
on the
years, you better be
calendar.
hitting the continent now.
Better be hitting the continent. And
Yep.
whenever he starts complaining his lattes are too foamy or something, then we're going to Africa or something to realize, dude, the world does not revolve around you as much as we think it does. The Fed increasing the interest rate, they didn't, you know, go to think about Jane, who owns a real estate property before, and think, well, what is she going to think about it?
Yep.
They're thinking other things, right? And we have to stop, you know, I don't know, take 100% responsibility for us, live in that, which is hard. Our actions, our money, all those things, and, you know, take the reward too. Right? I think that's a challenge, but yeah, I think this is so important, and I love that, you know, you are out here sharing. I feel like we talked a little bit about infinite banking. I know that it is, you know, how do you use it? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh! I mean, there's so many ways. I've used it for real estate. I've helped clients, maybe in Bitcoin. I don't know, but I don't understand it. I don't want to do that. Maybe if you got the
I
knowledge,
just interviewed a
maybe.
guy who utilizes infinite banking to buy all of his crypto. His name is Dominic Harabi. And
Yeah,
just, it was an awesome interview because I personally don't do a lot of Bitcoin or crypto. I think one of my favorite things I've ever done with my infinite banking policy had nothing to do with real estate actually. And it's cool because it's more of an achievable, like attainable short-term result for people. Was I went out and I bought an off-road trailer that I rented. You
nice.
know how a lot of people are doing like Airbnbs, which are obviously you
Yeah,
need more money for those. The people are doing Turo vehicles to rent their cars, and then there's a company called Outdoorsy. Outdoorsy allows you to rent out RVs, like they RV share, camper shares, all that kind of stuff. And so I went out and I was like, listen, what do I love? What is my lifestyle? What do my kids, what do we like to enjoy and do? And the answer is camping, you know, and off-roading and just getting off grid and getting away from the world and doing it as a family where we no devices and we're just like really, really present with each other. And so in that, I went and bought this off-road trailer that I pulled behind my Jeep. Now, here's the cool part. It was an MSRP of 30,000, 29,995, right? So 30 grand
yeah,
was the MSRP. The guy tried to offer me 26,000. And then I was like, no. And then he's like, I'll get you 1.9% financing. And I was like, no. And, you know, you just got to know, once again, having infinite banking policy gave leverage, right? And so long story short, I ended up saying, hey, what would the cash price be? So I worked him down a little bit. And he was like, listen, if you pay cash, it's 19,990, right? So when people go, he would have probably given me like 25,000 at like 0.9% APR. But that's where like people go like, oh, that's a great interest rate. Well, there's always a cost baked into that. You know, like
yeah.
0% rates, for instance, are never free if you're going. They're always increasing the charges for that because they're baking that into their system and their risk, right? And so by having this policy and being able to pay cash, what they thought I was paying cash, I was able to get this trailer. Now what happened? My family and I used it for 2.5 years. About
Nice.
18 times or so we went out in this thing. enjoyed it. I rented it. I cash flow about 20 to 25% per year, the trailer. And then because of inflation and the way the RV market was going, I saw an opportunity to sell it for more than I paid for it. So then I sold it for 20% more than I paid for it after cash flowing it. And like it increased my lifestyle, and it was a cash flowing asset for 2 years.
And it's
Like,
something you liked and know, like,
oh,
I think that that is important to know yourself, what you like and what's gonna better your um, health, financial wealth, family, all that stuff. We go to a church that is a very much camping church. And
yeah, nice.
so I've been thinking about that as saying, okay, some people say, well, this camping chair is really expensive. I'm like, well,
Mhm.
I value this. I'm going to spend the money for a great camping chair because I'm going to be a camper,
Mm.
you know, and you have a blackboard behind you. Do you
Yeah,
ever and this is what my wife and I do. Maybe we're geeks or something, but we whiteboard when we
yeah.
make big purchases, and we'll say, okay, uh, interest rate on a 0% interest loan, cash flow, all that stuff. Oh, if I take a
Mhm,
policy loan, what does this do?
mhm.
If I do this, what's the cost of money? How do I cash flow it? Do you guys ever do like whiteboard sessions with you and your family on big
Yeah, I
purchases?
mean, we do that a lot for like just my wife and I. We don't like bring the kids in on it yet
Yeah,
or
not the
anything of that
kids, of
nature.
course. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. I mean, but my daughter's getting old enough now where I might start bringing her into some of those conversations. But she's 11, so
yeah, 11. Gotcha.
you know,
I have a
starting.
4-year-old. My
Yeah,
my son apparently, I think he's been watching some Bitcoin um, videos on YouTube or something. Because I'm
nice,
like, I told him, said, "How do you make money?" He said, "Well, you dig in the ground, you find it, and then you put it in your computer, and it doubles." I was like,
nice.
"Where
It's
in the
easy.
world do you?" Yeah, I was like, "Man, we need to do that."
That's funny.
Um, and we actually tore down a shed, dug in the ground, and I found a deck, actually a bunch of pavers. And I was like, he was prophetic. He found money,
That's funny.
um, right? And what I've learned in as we're intentional, this is something I think that I want to teach my son because he loves number blocks. He loves just thinking through things. We were going to a trader's world to just learn, just to go out there and maybe buy something, and it's like a flea market. And I
Mm,
said don't ever pay full price for anything. Like if you go in there, always say that's too much, and negotiate.
yep.
So I tell that to my wife, and we're sitting in the front. My son's in the back, and I had told my son, um, okay, you can buy anything, you have 12 bucks, and he's 3 at the time. And he ends up finding a toy. It took him forever to find this toy. And
Hmm.
he grabs this little Iron Man figure, and he asks the guy, how much does this cost? And the guy says it's $4 immediately. And I forgot that I said anything. He says, that's too much, puts it down, starts walking away. And I was like, wait. My wife's like, you need to go back and say, what's will you do it for $3? And I realized in that moment he was listening to us
Yeah.
in our habits,
Yep.
and he made a 25% savings because of his
Totally.
power of negotiation. And I think that in our world, our financial system is broken because we say, well, mom didn't teach me this or that. That's why you guys are listening to these videos. Hey,
Yeah.
realize, hey, learn what you can do, learn from us. Maybe we have had some good mistakes and not, but as you're emulating, other people will see that. Your kids,
Totally.
hopefully.
And I think when you
So,
break down infinite banking, it gets you to realize when you start implementing it, it really just helps you operate more financially efficiently, right? Like
right.
that's it. It's the world has been duped into believing that it's all about about taking a small percentage of our income and taking that money and investing it and taking a lot of risk to get higher returns to hopefully get where we want to be someday. The reality is that it shouldn't be that way. If we have more control of our money and we're not putting it in accounts that we don't have access to until we're 60, right? Or delaying gratification in that way, now we can show up in life a little bit differently. We have control of this money. We can take advantage of different opportunities. We can have a better lifestyle along the way. We can put money into investments into assets that we understand that add value to not just our life right now, but our future when we think about from a cash flow perspective. And we have control, everything you just said, from like how I bought my trailer, how your son bought, that toy, like, all these different things. It goes all the way down the line. People make so many bad financial decisions because of the fact that they don't have control of enough money and the way that they're managing their savings and investing or lack thereof, right? And so if you can just do that, if we just focused on, if I could help you think about it this way, I could take 10% of $100,000. Let's say you have a household of $100,000 of income. I could take 10%, which is $10,000, and go try to take a lot of risk and get a 10% return, which would be $1,000. Or I could take that $100,000 and try to save less and try to still save the $10,000. But instead of investing it, I can worry about the rest of the $90,000 and try to increase my efficiency by just over 1%. Right? And get the same return with no risk that people are chasing.
Efficiency.
When that clicks and you realize like the volume is more important than the return, and that it's all about like, where is your money and the savings and volume? How much extra money would you save right now if you knew you didn't have to give up control of that money until you were 60? Right? If you knew that if lifestyle, you needed it for any reason, if for an investment, an opportunity, for an emergency, or anything that you needed it along the way, along the journey, how much more would you be able to save? And how much more would you be willing to save? Like one of my favorite things, if you knew you couldn't fail, how much more would you do? How much more would you show up in life? And like, that's what this is. Like, if you just do it, you can't fail. The only way you fail with infinite banking is if you just don't do it and stay committed to it.
And understanding, like for me, I think, man, doing those things, understanding, like, man, I bought some properties. There's this thing called escrow, right? Escrow is where it's money that you have to pay, like taxes to people, right? And they have escrow setup fees. What we call is we self escrow. So instead of doing escrow, we save $2,000 on just closing costs, right? And we self escrow. Again, we know our numbers, and we put it through our life insurance policy first. And there's other things, our midterm, medium term, long term, all these other expenses that we save for, right? They just happen to go into one place because usually not all the things happen at the same time, right? And we just build our wealth, right? It's the debtor, saver, wealth accumulator staircase that I think is really important to think about is why does government require you to do escrow? Well, because they want to make sure that they are made whole if you don't pay your thing, right?
That's risk.
Interest rates. Why is, if you're doing commercial real estate, it's more expensive than the other way, 6% versus 3% or whatever. I don't know. Well, it's about taking income from you to get for them. The thing I learned, and I just think about a lot, and you've probably said this many times, is don't do what the banks tell you to do what the banks do, right? How do we think about that and teach our kids to think about it, right? That's something I just go back to. And again, why I love infinite banking is it's a control system, but you have to actually use it, right? I love when my clients are like, hey, I'm going to take a policy loan. That's why I'm creating courses and things like that to help them understand how to control that. And this is just a storehouse.
Totally, man. And I think that's why I think everybody should do this at some point in time in their life. Like, I think,
Right.
so I believe in that foundationally, but I think whoever you do it with, it doesn't need to be me. It doesn't need to be Brandon, but like, I think whoever you do it with, it needs to be somebody that's going to be there with you as a coach and as a guidance. Like, there are too many agents out there that sell policies and then just like disappear. Even those who do infinite banking and like know how to design policies properly, they're not there for the life of the policy. They're not there to help you find opportunity, to help plug you into networks and connect you and like help serve you in all these different ways. And the reality is these policies are only as good as you are. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you got to save money and you believe fundamentally that you need an emergency fund, all right, the best place to save that emergency fund is inside of a properly designed whole life insurance policy. That's long-term. That's fact. I can show you the math. That is what it is. Now, it's going to help you implement absolute financial principles of like pay yourself first, that are going to hold you accountable, to your own goals and dreams and, objectives. And so, like, that part is really good. But like, I think, when it comes down to it, you just, it comes back to what are your values? What are your beliefs? What do you want to accomplish? And then you start to realize like, oh, okay. You reverse engineer and say, properly designed whole life insurance policy is the only thing that's going to help me get there, on a predictable basis,
Yeah, exactly. And again, I think whether you go with us, it doesn't even matter. Like, really set up a policy, find the people. Like, for me, I know I'm not going away anytime soon. And we're in this for, I don't know, at least until I'm 100, probably. And I think that's the thing. I'd love to be an educator. This is why we do what we do. It's not about sales. It's about educating. And if you think you've arrived anywhere, continue to be an educator, a learner, if you will. Right. And that's the practice I want to be at. And all of that. So, Chris, thanks for being here. I know we've been going a while there. Any closing remarks? I mean, we could keep going forever, and I know we got several people here, but anything you want to leave people with of saying, if you get this one thing, do this, or what?
It goes. I mean, I've been beating it pretty hard on this conversation. Is just like, my guess is everybody watching this has something in life that they want to achieve. And hopefully you haven't achieved it yet, right? Like, we all want to keep going, keep growing. And hopefully when you get where you want to go, you're going to keep growing and getting there. One of the favorite things I ever heard conversationally was Tony Robbins and this guy interviewing him and going up to him and basically like calling him out and saying, "Hey, Tony, like, you think you're this big shot? Well, I'm doing all this stuff. And in 3 years, I'm going to be exactly where you are." And Tony's like, "Dude, good for you." I'm like, and Tony, like, rather than being intimidated, threatened by it, he was like, "I'm stoked for you." Like, and he's like, "When you get where I am, I'm going to be long past here, cause I'm continually growing." Most people look at Tony and be like, "Oh my gosh, that guy's at the Mecca." Right. But there's always a new plateau when you get to the top, and that you want to keep growing. And that's what life is all about. And it should be, and what I would say, and this goes back to what I was saying a little earlier, is like, your goals can't just be about you and, having the nice houses and the nice cars and the nice stuff and the travel and the vacations and the lifestyle. It's got to be about service and contribution. And like, that's where we're going to get really fulfilled. And if you're chasing it and you can enjoy the stuff along the way. And like, there's part of that that's awesome, but make sure whatever you're doing financially is in alignment with your values and beliefs and what your goals and objectives are. And you're going to be able to leverage your finances to help you live that bigger life, to help you show up more powerfully, to help you make that impact in the world. And if you do that, your life is, you're going to look back and like Brandon said, if you just make 1% incremental changes every week, don't even say every day, every week, if you just say, "Hey, I'm going to read 5 hours this week. I'm going to stop watching Netflix. I'm I'm going to commit to growing, commit to learning, commit to doing something that's going to enhance me and my family and help me get where I want to go. And you do that every week and you can improve 1% per week. That means 1 year from now, you're going to be 52% better than you were today. And we all talk about compounding of money, but the compounding of the growth of you is,
oh my gosh,
incalculable. Like when I go back to like looking at where I started and where I am now and like the journey and the whole concept of hockey stick growth in money goes in life the same way. It does. But you got to be willing to go slow to be able to go fast. That's hockey stick growth. It looks really slow, but when it goes, man, if you build that right foundation, the cool part is during that slow growth, that's when it's allowing you to become who you need to be for the hockey stick growth. Because if you started off at the beginning and then we're like, I want this hockey stick growth. And I got news for you. This is what happened to me with Life180 when I first launched it in 2014. Everything that I wanted Life180 to be when I first started it in 2014 failed and cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars and failed horribly because I wasn't who I needed to be yet, And now it's all happening and it's like, it's honestly overwhelming in such an amazing way. And it's such a blessing because like we have so much momentum and I couldn't stop it if I wanted it, I couldn't not that I would ever want to stop it, but like, it's got like a life of its own now because like of how I've grown. And now this hockey stick growth is happening. And I look back at it and I go, whoa, if all this was happening back in 2014, there's no way I was who I needed to be yet to handle and manage all this. Right. And so like, I would just say that compound the personal growth and if it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly until you're good at it. Just be committed, just keep going, commit to it. Make sure your money is in alignment with your values and beliefs. And it's a tool to help you accomplish the life that you want to live. Like, it's not any more complicated than that. We don't need to make this more complicated than that. It's not about the rate of return. It's not about the arbitrage. It's not about all this stuff. It's like, are you becoming who you need to be to live the life that you want to live? It really, that's where it should start and end. And the rest of it, we can work out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, again, that's why I liked having you on here, just to think through it. I know we are like kindred spirits, if you will.
Yeah, man.
And, doing the still method is the same thing. Look for 1% adjustments. And you know what that is. I don't know what that is. I can help say, well, here's math here, but it's up to you to make those 1% adjustments. So, guys, thank you guys for being here. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share this video with, I don't know, everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody should. I don't want to say should, but really understanding how money works, reverse architect your life. Go and subscribe. If you're on our channel, go subscribe to Life180. If you're on Chris's channel, go subscribe to ours, of course.
Yeah, totally.
It's not as amazing. I've only started this.
Oh, come on now.
A couple years back, but
just newer.
It's just newer. We're getting there. But really, I'm excited for the potential we're going to have together, the collaborations. So thanks for being here, and we will catch you guys next time.